myself, so that's a quorum. Anna has asked to be excused. If she can get away, she will join us. If not, she's excused. And I guess I will declare this meeting up and running. So, Kathy, do we have any members of the public?
No, Deborah, we don't.
All right, so no public comment. Changes to the agenda. I am going to move the chair's report and the committee members' reports until after Barb's presentation, because we've got some things to discuss about where we are with our goals, and I'm eager to hear what your thoughts are on that. So we have minutes to approve. Can I get a motion on that? Amanda moves. Dan seconds. Thank you. You guys are going to be busy if nobody else shows up. Any comments or discussion?
I did notice there's an error on page 4 with something that was said in the last meeting. I don't know if, not the legislature, but on packet page 5, it says that Ms. Webster provided an update regarding reusable bags for low-income individuals. New York State charges 5 cents per bag at the store, but it's actually the county that decided to implement that bag fee. So I don't know if we can just make that amendment.
Yeah, Kathy can do that, can't you, Kathy?
Yes, we can make that correction.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. You're on top of it. I'm glad, because I'm ready for this year to be over. All right, then. With that amendment, can we get a vote on the minutes? Amanda?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's unanimous as far as it goes.
Yeah. Deborah, Dave McKenna just joined us.
Oh, hi, Dave. I'm glad you're here. We just passed the minutes. Do you have any problem with that? No. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, then. So
He's on.
say what?
There we go. Just to let you know, I may need to be in and out occasionally here. I have some contractors replacing a bunch of windows. So
Okay.
hopefully I can stick around for the whole thing, but you know, as long as you got quorum.
We do. Thanks, Dave. And
Okay.
good. No stress window changes. Yeah. All right, then. So
Merry Christmas.
yeah, you too. All right. Is Jason here? Or somebody from, yeah, Jason's here. I think since we reordered the agenda, we're ready for the administrator's report.
I don't know that I have a whole lot to report on. You know, we're learning as we go from the state. I'll just briefly touch on the vaccination distribution perspective. So the state has decided to manage this process through the hospitals. There are 10 regional hubs that we participate on. The hospitals are trying to organize how to distribute vaccines. CMC is part of the conversation, but it's not leading that. Ours is out of Binghamton. I think Frank talked a little bit about this the other day. And, you know, it's really starting to unfold. You know, they're building the plane in flight, so to speak, in terms of vaccination distribution. We're just starting to get information and sharing information about how they want it distributed. I know CMC's had some press releases on some of their folks getting vaccinated. And it's limited information to be able to say it in a nice way as to how this is supposed to roll out. But I do believe some of the nursing homes are starting to get vaccinated today. And I know some of the medical staff have started to be vaccinated. So I suspect over the next week to 2 weeks, we'll have more relevant information on how it's going to get rolled out as we get it. But it's right now it's being controlled on the second floor with limited transparency. Just to make you aware. So I'm sure you're getting some questions about it. We have a lot of questions about it, and we're just starting to be brought into the process now. So that's about the only update I have, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sorry that all of this stuff's hitting right around the holidays. It's not like you haven't had a stressful year already.
No,
And we appreciate everything you and your staff and all of the county staff have been doing.
thanks.
I do have one question. I heard that at some meeting with the city, it was mentioned that we were going to be posting that sustainability officer position quickly after the new year. Is that the case?
We're going to get our HR commissioner on board and then we'll figure out how we're going to post it. I know I've got another department position to post beforehand. So sometime in January, we're going to try to figure out how we want to approach it.
All right. Well, keep us posted. We appreciate
Will do.
it.
Absolutely.
All right, then. Barb, you're up.
Hi,
Deborah?
everybody. Yeah,
Deb-
sometimes it takes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Barb. Martha had her hand up. What is it, Martha?
Yeah, sorry about that. One about vaccinations and one about sustainability officer. We have the job description. We've had it for a couple of weeks, right? I mean, is there? And I understand the city's already interviewing people on their similar position. Why would there be a delay? Ruby won't be coming till January 11th.
Well, I mean, it's just setting up the system. We have another department head position we're going to post at before we do that. So we have to just set up the process for it, Martha, and everything else that's going on. So, when Ruby comes on board, I'd rather have her start with the posting of it and be starting with the recruitment process with her on board before we start it.
Okay. I was on a NACO call this morning and there's a conversation about a lot of conversation about vaccines. And I said something about that there's the Pfizer, because Pfizer comes in batches of 1,000, we haven't gotten any directly. Mark Poloncarz said that Cattaraugus County has actually they have 80,000 people in the whole county and they got a Pfizer batch. So it's pretty puzzling. Do you know anything?
No counties have gotten vaccines. So it's got to be one of the hospitals, one of the 10 hospitals that are part of the regional hubs for vaccination distribution. The county, I'm fairly certain no county has received a Pfizer vaccine.
Maybe he meant that there was
it's got to be one of the it's got to be the hospital that's doing that, that's managing that regional hub.
And I guess CVS and Walgreens are managing the nursing homes.
Yes.
Do we have contact with them?
Very limited.
Okay.
It's been a quagmire and a half-assed backwards approach as to how this vaccination is being distributed, to be very blunt with everyone. There's not a lot of communication from the state. There's not a lot of communication as to how it's to be done. The hospital systems have been entrusted to do something that they've never done before. So, we just had a first call earlier this week with folks to be able to figure things out. So it's like I said, they're putting the plane together in flight.
Okay. All right. Good luck. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we need to face the fact it's going to be months before they get this ship launched. And we've already been locked down for 9 months and we'll just have to hang in there a little bit longer. It sucks. I feel your pain, Martha. We all do. Anyhow, on to cheerier topics, something we can control, environmentally preferred procurement. Barbara.
Yeah, well, you do remember about a year ago, Amanda and others brought to the committee's attention the need to eliminate the use of takeout containers, styrofoam, and water bottles. And a couple of us got together. One was Jason, me, Katie Borgella, and I believe somebody from the health department. And we discussed really the need to broaden this. And I made mention that 10 years ago, there was a movement to establish an EPP policy for procurement of both goods and services, but it was decided at that point, even though, we had a stakeholder group, et cetera, that it was going to be included in the waste reduction policy. And there was a little blurb about it. The committee has patiently been waiting through COVID and through our need to deal with, COVID and other priorities. But here we are. So I want to thank a bunch of people before we get started here on what I consider to be one of the best team efforts that I've been involved in. And the committee especially, and those of you who are really gung-ho, really helped us move. Also the Environmental Management Council, and then on staff, Nancy Webster has done an incredible amount of work on this, following some research we had done with Kat McCarthy, who worked for us for the original EPP work, and then did a little consulting to get us going. Lisa Holmes and Jesse both have been a tremendous help in really framing the policy. And then finance especially, we've really come together and we all see eye to eye on this policy. I'm sure you'll have a lot of comments. But again, it's a feel-good project, like you say, Deb, and we're gonna just give you a couple of, I gotta open up my sheet here. I think we're gonna put up the policy for you. Nancy, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We'll just wait for that. And what I'm going to do, and Nancy's going to help me, is we're just going to highlight a couple of main points, just so that you have a bit of a framework on, where we are. Of course, Jason had the best idea, which was to combine the EPP work into this procurement, and we have done that. So let's just scroll down. And so I mentioned that we began this work in 2008, and then with the renewed interest, we're here today. So the great thing that's happened over the years is that we have best value purchasing, and we're already going to be able to piggyback on some state contracts that already exist. And so what we're doing, just to reiterate, is departments are going to be required to strongly consider EPP and are prohibited from purchasing single-use plastic water bottles, disposable serviceware, styrofoam products, except for emergency circumstances. I'm going to have Nancy go over her history of the extensive benchmarking, and it was so great because in the last 10 years, so many places have done just what we set out to do, and we were able to pull from the best. And we have lots of case studies that we've reviewed. Nancy, do you want to go over that?
Yeah. So we based this policy on research from places like King County, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, places that are usually ahead of the curve. And we're right up there with them, right? Like we started looking at this 10 years ago, and then it kind of wasn't so much of a priority. So now we're bringing it back into focus. And we're planning to start with maybe office products, something like that, that reaches a wide variety of departments and will make an impact in the whole organization. And then kind of look at different categories like cleaning products or, smaller subsets. So we're going to take bites out of the apple. You can see there's some important definitions that we kind of go through. You've probably read those on your own. And all of this comes from other policies that other municipalities have. One of the key things is having a team. So we plan to start a team that'll have an interdepartmental approach. I'll be coordinating for recycling and materials management. Barb will be involved in the beginning as we get started. And then we'll also be working with administration. That chief sustainability officer position will be involved. Facilities, finance, ITS, and some representation from the legislature, whoever's interested. And then as we move through, questions can be directed to me, and we'll work on them as a team if needed. Let's see, I think the committee is going to vote on this at the end of January, and the legislature will meet then and vote in February, and we hope to get the team assembled and begin meeting in March.
If I could add a couple of things here. Nancy,
Yeah.
why don't we scroll down to the EPP? Keep going.
The
All
team?
right. Yeah, the team. One of the really important things that have been included here is that, and finance has been really on board, and they will have, I believe it'll either be Andrew or Joanne will be involved with this team, is the fact that there's going to be people here who are going to be doing research, probably primarily us and maybe some others, about what products. There's a number of guys, there's a number of places to reach out to. And we're going to be getting very, very concrete examples in every category of what can be purchased. And we will be discussing these. I wanted to make sure you understood that when we did this in the past, and it's kind of disappeared, we had an extensive list of office products made with environmental attributes. And over time, because this kind of group didn't exist, it was just less convenient, and purchasing certainly didn't have enough time to do that proper research. So I'm very hopeful that we will be using a lot of these products, and they will be taken into account during the budget process. There's so many products now that are so comparable in price to the virgin materials. You just have to know what you're looking for. And I'm expecting that while we may go to facilities and cleaning products, we're going to work also with ITS, we'll work, there's highway products, there's so many different categories. We expect that in March, can you scroll down a little bit more, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Down further. G, I think it's G. Yeah, it's G. All right. You know, we're going to be busy, and I'll be popping into meetings on occasion, and I certainly will for the first 3 to 6 months. But we are going to be preparing quarterly and annual reports of the purchases that are made and their attributes that we are happy to provide to the committee as well as to department heads. And I think the most important thing is that no man is an island on this one. And I got a very good sense from Andrew Brayman that he's right on board with us, and they're going to be key players as we do our research on products and really expand. I have a strong interest also in including EPP standards into service providing as well. I'm anticipating that once we get started in March, there's plenty of work to be doing for at least a year and getting all of these things addressed. And that's why, you know, again, we're going to crawl, walk, and run, but we are in a position that I think the county and departments and administration is ready. I'm going to pull in a municipal official as well, Lynn Leopold, who worked for me for many years, did a lot of work with this and has a strong interest in helping municipalities, including the village of Lansing. But we're going to also be reaching out to the municipalities to share what we're doing and help them to expand their environmental procurement work. So that's pretty much the size of it. In terms of a summary, I would imagine that there would be specific questions. And of course, what we're hoping to do is pull together for the next meeting a resolution, and then of course move from there. The issue about the items that you wanted to see not purchased, that's going to need to be communicated. Of course, when this resolution passes, that'll need a communication from the county administrator, I would imagine, as to, the rules of the road. But they're familiar with this policy. They know it. Any questions from anybody?
I just have one tiny comment. Packet page 13, the team that you pointed out. Can we just spell out what RMM is? I mean, I know what it is, but it's not an abbreviation we use commonly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We will. And that was the name that we all came up with together. Remember, Dan? I think it might have been.
I do actually, yes.
Yeah, it was your idea. So of course, thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Deborah, where do you stand on this?
Barb, if I trust you and Nancy implicitly, and if the rest of the departments in admin and finance are on board with this, I say the legislature just says thank you, sings Hosanna, and passes.
Well, and I think the most important thing, Deb, that we worked on was to make sure that the way it's worded in here is we don't have a price differential in here, because in the places where they put in a price differential for environmental products versus virgin, it failed every time. So instead, having the team and working with purchasing, and I'm sure we're going to run into some issues that, we're going to need the county administrator to help us with. But I have real confidence, we have great relations with our finance department, at least in our department, and I'm sure other departments do too. So I'm gonna trust the process, and and this will be, there'll be no secrets here. It'll be openly discussed as we move along, and we'll give you those quarterly reports.
Yeah, and I know that you've been frustrated because this didn't go through 10 years ago when you worked so hard on it. But I think, timing is everything.
Time is everything, and so much more has happened. And we're embracing this now. But I was really glad we got something in the original waste reduction policy, but it didn't have the teeth to keep we developed a guide. We did a lot with, individual departments, but it didn't stick. So this is going to be the way it has to stick. And there has to be accountability at all levels.
And you've got buy-in from every level of the county. And in the interim 10 years, the availability of products that meet these specifications has expanded and become more.
And the prices have become so good compared to where they were. So the two of those things, I think this is a very exciting adventure for all of us. And I'm really excited that, Nancy, who has been with us for what, 5-6 years now, at least? 8, sorry.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies, yeah.
When you're having fun. But Nancy has leadership potential, and she's gonna really, she's very detailed, but very good at managing projects. So I feel like now we have stability in moving this forward. And again, Jessie was tremendous helping with this as well. And we're looking forward to her, working more and more with her. It's just so nice to see people that are definitely going to be around for a while, hopefully taking leadership roles.
Well, I really appreciate Nancy's leadership on implementation, but I also appreciate Amanda's role in pushing this issue for a couple of years. I think we should call this Amanda's policy, frankly, but
yes.
Okay.
I just had a couple of questions.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you so much for working on this. It made me very happy to read through it and see those, see what we wanted in there. So I really, really appreciate it. One question is, will this policy also have to go through GO? Because that's how we normally do policies.
I think Lisa Holmes is here, but I believe she's planning to.
Okay. Okay. So, because our next GO meeting is at the very beginning of January. So
Right.
maybe it would come through here and then go to GO in February.
Also, you're
Yeah, that's
you're
the
seeing
plan.
this you're seeing this for information. And the
Yeah.
question, of course, for you as chair is, do you want your committee to see it for information? So that we can bring it back with, so you want a resolution for, I won't be able to put together a resolution at that point.
Right.
I'm gonna be away.
So Barb, I can kind of speak to this. I think we were putting it forward to you guys as the originating committee to get your feedback on it, take any of the feedback, either back to the table if we needed to bring it back another month, or if not, include that feedback in the document that will be going to GO at the beginning of January. So it sounds like that's what we're going to be doing. So I don't think
actually we
resolution-
could do that, Lisa. I think I'll be away for a bit, a few days, and Nancy will be also, but I think that, I don't know. I mean, if you want me to put it together for GO, it could be done. Nancy and I could do it, but that would be a little harder than doing it in the order we thought.
Oh, I had assumed that this was, we had discussed that this was this committee's feedback would be incorporated in the resolution that would be going to GO for January 7th. So I don't think there's anything more for you to do on it, Barb.
Well,
but we can talk offline if you feel like there is.
No problem. We actually have the old resolution from before. Nancy can, I'll work with Nancy and we'll put something together. It's not the beginning of January, so we have a couple of days.
Well, normally, Barb, when resolutions come, when policies come to GO, it's just the resolution is usually very short, and then the policy, like people read the policies, right, Lisa? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, we have a boilerplate resolution,
okay.
Barb, and this is going to be going with some other policies to GO. So we can just put it right in there.
Sounds great.
And if anybody from GO or from Peak wants to offer their feedback, they can either write to the GO members or go to the GO meeting, because we all get the invitations.
Yeah.
So that meeting is on the 7th at what time?
1:45.
Thank you.
It starts. I had two other little editing, my editor side came out. On packet page 11, under, I don't know if you want to scroll up, Nancy. Under D, it says the RMM will establish a team. And I just, that phrasing of will establish, could it just say the RMM has the team or the team is responsible? I mean, if someone reads this policy in 4 years, they'll say, well, are they still establishing a team? I mean,
That's
just
friendly. Just whatever you want to say is great.
okay, so just saying, yeah, the RMM team shall be responsible for management. So that was one thing. And then the other editing formatting thing was on page 13. All the other, the procedures like A, B, and like under B, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but under C, it has letters instead of numbers. So that's another little formatting thing that my editorial side noticed.
Sure.
And that's it. I just really appreciate you guys working on this, and look forward to voting on it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Yeah, you're our audience. Are you willing to join us?
Sure. Yeah.
Super.
This is great. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have a question? I can't see my participant thing because Nancy's thing's up on the screen. So Nancy, if you could take that down, that'd be great.
And Nancy and Barb, for your information, I've been incorporating the edits from both Dan and Amanda, so that will be included in the next iteration that goes.
So great.
Awesome. Thank you.
I've not been directly involved in a policy with Lisa, but this has just been so great. It really has. Thank you.
Lisa's had lots of practice in the last
Yeah.
couple of
Lisa's
years.
amazing at policies.
She could do this in her sleep. All right, then. Well, thank you, Barb. Thank you, Nancy.
A wonderful holiday to all of you. Thank you. very
And
much.
you too.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Thank
great
you.
to have this on its way. So Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy
Oh,
Hanukkah.
you know what, guys? One thing, what we are planning to do is, as you know, we have a program called Re-Business Partners with the businesses. And as we move through the county, we're also going to roll this out in the form of, fact sheets, et cetera, to businesses and work also with the community over time.
That's terrific. You might find a really good partner for that in Wegmans. They really seem to be
Sorry,
on
with who?
top of.
With
Well,
who?
yeah, Wegmans packaging generally is recycled.
Oh, we have worked with them on these things in the past. I mean, we're gonna go at the right pace. I mean, I heard all the conversation about, the COVID and the other things, but we're gonna go at around 50 miles an hour and do a really good job. And we will grow the program over time. Might take 3 years, but the whole community is gonna benefit from this.
That's great.
All right.
Enjoy your holiday
You too. Thank you.
next year.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay. Kathy, before we go to the chair's report and the members' report and a discussion of our goals, I noticed that there's an advisory board appointment and I don't have it in my packet.
It's appointing Reggie Teasley as the chair of the Environmental Management Council for 2021. There's no application. It's just appointing that individual as the chair of EMC.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, it's a legislature appointment.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then. Dan moves,
I'll second.
Amanda seconds. Any discussion?
I emailed with Reggie and she's very excited, and I'm very excited for her to take the lead.
That's great. Is Tom retiring from the EMC entirely?
I think so.
We've lost Brian and Tom in the last couple of years. That's huge. Well, good. I think Reggie's up to the task. So ready to vote? Amanda,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. So that's unanimous. Congratulate Reggie for us, Amanda. All right then. So my report. You will notice that no one from DPS is here. It's because I gave them the day off. The main thing I have to report from that is that there were some issues raised by Bob Howarth relating to the greenhouse gas emissions report that we heard about, I think, at our last meeting. Bob had some concerns that the methane was not properly accounted for, wasn't broken down by economic sector, and he wanted it distinguished over the life cycle between 20-year impact and 100-year impact. This is apparently where we're going to be going statewide and measuring methane under the CLCPA, although it has not yet been incorporated into a protocol that the state wants us to use. So that caused a little bit of service with DPS and our contractors, but we had a meeting with Katie and Darby and Megan and the contractors and Bob Howarth and Terry Carroll and myself, and we got it all sorted, and there will be changes. And the whole point of this, apparently, is to make it easier for us as the policymakers to understand the implications of these methane measurements when we set our policies going forward. So I gather that we will be getting an updated greenhouse gas emissions report after these various changes have been made in how the data is presented. Does anybody have any questions about that? That's good, because this is as much as I understand about this. You know, you get Bob Howarth in a room talking about measuring methane, and it's like, anyhow. All right then. And then the COVID relief bill, 5,000 and some pages, apparently contains a whole lot of really good stuff for green energy. I don't really know any of the details. Needless to say, I've not seen or read 5,000 pages of this bill, and we don't know at this point whether the president's going to even sign it. But this is kind of a segue into the next topic. I looked at our goals that we so optimistically set back in January and February for the committee to see how we did this year. And needless to say, we kind of fell on our face, although it's not really our fault. You know, COVID pretty much eclipsed everything. Our first priority was updating the forest management plan. That didn't happen. And frankly, I'm not sure that it's going to happen anytime soon, because DPS is going to have a very full plate, what with the CLCPA and our green energy strategy internally in the county. I want you to be listening to this with an eye to figuring out what our priorities might be next year. We've carried this forest management plan thing now for a couple of years, and it hasn't happened. And I don't know that there's much appetite for pushing it forward another year. I think we might just want to concede failure. But that's for the committee to decide. Okay. Now, the second goal that we had was sustainable energy advocacy. With input from the case board, monitor developments in and affecting the energy sector, and make appropriate recommendations to the legislature. That we have done very well. And I think that that will continue to be a priority for us, given that the Climate Action Council's work mandated by the CLCPA is supposed to be finished by the end of 2021. And so we'll stay on top of that. We're fortunate to have a CAC member on the case board, and we'll just continue to monitor that. The third priority was improving water quality capabilities. Explore options for improving the county's ability to protect the Cayuga Lake watershed. Hang on a second. Well, that really hasn't moved forward largely because of COVID. I will say on the plus side, I think that with this chief sustainability officer that we've got coming down the pike, that will improve DPS's ability to focus on water. Unfortunately, as you all know, we've lost David West and God, I'm blanking on her name. The gal who does the business energy.
Andrea.
Yes, and Andrea. So Katie is once again short of people. That will certainly slow down Darby's transition to water. But I think we'll get there eventually. Our fourth priority was focusing on the ag sector, learning more about issues that are important to our ag sector. Unfortunately, about the only thing we did on the ag sector this year was monitor the progress of the updating of the the ag sector work that Monica Roth and her group were doing. Then we had ongoing committee activities, continued Peak's focus on waste management, with particular focus on the food system plan, the impact of textiles on our waste stream, and the developments in the recycling industry. I think we've made a lot of progress, thanks to Barb and Nancy, on keeping track of what's going on in recycling. Now, I would like you all to think about, and if you have any initial thoughts about how we might set our priorities for next year, what's important and what's not. I personally think that there's going to continue to be a big emphasis on energy and climate, simply because of the CLCPA. And of course, if that federal law gets passed, the stimulus bill with all the green energy goodies in it, there will be a lot of opportunities for grants and improvements in county facilities. So with that, I'd like to hear what you all think. Amanda.
Well, just I want to go back to the water quality priority, and I guess we as a committee haven't done that much, but I do feel like the Water Resources Council has done quite a bit, and I've been on the HABS committee, which is led by Darby, who is amazing, and the past couple meetings, what we've done is we've gone through the state's, I can't remember what it's called, HAB, I don't know if it's an action plan, HAB's action plan, and literally like spelled out, what needs to happen, who can do this, how soon can they do it, and unfortunately, so many of the actions are through Soil and Water Conservation District, and they are strapped, they have so much that they're already doing. They need more staff, blah, blah, blah. So, but anyway, so my point in saying that is that, the HABS committee is coming up with some actionable things that we can do, either the committee or Soil and Water or the WRC, that we're gonna kind of prioritize, and hopefully next year, various committees of the WRC can work on. The other part of that is that I think every 3 years, the water quality strategy is updated, and that will be coming up next year. So the WRC will also be looking at that and making changes, or making new actions that can happen. So in terms of what this committee can do is keep supporting that, and support with policies or letters to the state about things that we want to support them doing. So that, that's what I've sort of been focused on lately. So that would be a continuing priority for me, aside from everything else. But I do think there's some opportunity there to actually get some stuff done through these committees. So
well, I would hope, Amanda, that next year you might consider being the liaison to the Watershed Intermunicipal Organization, because they've been focused on this quite a lot. They really, so far, haven't been able to gather the resources that they need to do anything, because the dues that they charge the member municipalities are pretty minimal. They're going to try to come up with a formula that's based in part on how much acreage each municipality has bordering on the lake, and the value of the property, and the number of people, and how much water they use out of the lake, to try to come up with a formula that will net them enough money to hire somebody to actually do some of this work. And their goal eventually, they have two. One is to have a watershed manager position, and the second one is to come up with watershed rules and regulations, which my feeling is that given the size of our watershed and the number of counties and villages and towns and cities in our watershed, that's virtually impossible, but they
Yeah.
keep knocking their head against
So
the wall.
there, yeah, so there is also a subcommittee on the WRC for rules and regulations, and they haven't really been meeting this year because they've been waiting to hear what's going to happen with the OWASCO rules and regs. But there is an appetite on that committee to start getting that done, and it'll be huge. I mean, it'll be years of work if we can even, get there. But people want to do it, and I think it's important. It's a huge task. It'll be a huge task, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Martha's here, and I wanted to bring up the issue that you raised, you and Darby, about whether or not the legislature should put forward a resolution to the state supporting the OWASCO proposal. And I gather you probably all saw the email exchange. I copied you all on it. The problem is that OWASCO and Auburn's resolution was not unanimous in support. And I question whether we should be weighing in. I know that the town of Groton is part of that OWASCO watershed, but the rest of the county is not. Martha, have you, in your experience, encountered an issue like this where we're asked to weigh in on something that largely doesn't affect us?
Well, we have weighed in, for example, going to the west on the Seneca, several issues on Seneca Lake, on the Romulus incinerator and the gas, remember the?
Yeah.
I forget, the gas storage under Seneca Lake, LPG, LNG, whatever. And we have done that.
So it wouldn't be unprecedented.
Wouldn't be unprecedented. I mean, right. So I would think that it would be a good issue for staff to review and advise us on and say, yeah, these look like good, reasonable regulations, et cetera.
Well, the interesting thing about Amanda can probably expand on this too. The interesting thing about the WRC resolution is that it specifically states that we're not opining on the rightness or wrongness of specific regulations. We just think it would be a really good idea if you actually approve these regulations, since
Right. It's about the process. And I don't have time to read all the Owasco Lake rules and regulations, and I don't really want to, but it's more about telling the state that their rules are from 1984, and they don't reflect current science. They don't reflect best management practices. They're completely out of date. And even though the votes from Auburn and Owasco were not unanimous, they still passed, and they've gotten numerous other letters of support from other entities and other organizations that the state needs to allow them to do what works for their region. It's not really about the state saying, well, here's what you should do for your lake. They should be able to determine that for themselves. So I think it is in our interest to tell the state that we want that to happen, so then we can do our own. Even though it would be a huge task, then we can, at least begin the process of, like what did the rules and regs look like for Cayuga Lake? And we should have the ability to make those rules, So yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I would like to hear from Glenn about what his town's board thinks of this, because they're part of that watershed. I mean, the thing that's weird about watershed regulations, and the thing that makes it so difficult to have them for Cayuga, is that once they're adopted And they have to be adopted, as I understand it, by the organization that provides drinking water. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's the water.
Holton
purveyors.
Point would have to do it
Yeah.
for Cayuga Lake. But once that entity establishes these rules and regulations, then everybody in the watershed has to abide by them, whether they like it or not. And that's what makes it so hard for the Cayuga Lake thing.
Right. Yeah,
And-
and it's not based on municipality, it's based on the watershed, which most people don't think of the map in that way. So that's why the Groton folks may not know about it or may not feel like it applies to them, but it does, because they're in that watershed. You know?
Amanda, have you talked to Glenn?
Just that email that he sent back, I have not spoken with him, no.
Do you want to talk to him, or should I?
Either way is fine. I mean, it seemed like he just sort of passed off my email to the town supervisor. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking. So,
Well, I'll give him a call and
okay.
see where that stands. Okay. So, any other issues that Dan? I see your hand far away.
Thank you. Yes, out here. Thanks. Yeah, about the forestry issue. It was my intention to bring a resolution in April this year, and obviously something else came along at that time. But so it's still my intention to bring it back to the attention of the legislature early next year. And it's very simply going to be just to recommend that the county adopt a policy to allow our county-owned forest to mature into old-growth forest. And the beauty of that is that it doesn't really require any work on the part of the department, the planning department, because that is what basically is that they requires no work on the part of the county. That's not 100% true. It's probably like 99% true, as opposed to the other work plan that was in existence, which involved a lot of involvement by the county on an annual basis. So I just want to let you know that that is my intention next year to move that issue forward that has been paused because of the pandemic.
Okay. Just, can I ask you to kind of leave it till maybe April or May, when hopefully this COVID thing will have calmed down?
April sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll deal with it then. But certainly it's not a priority item, I think, for the committee next year. The reason I'm putting this forward to you all.
Priority for me, Deborah. And
No. What I mean is that the way we had couched it was we were going to consider, whether or not we wanted to update the forest plan. Yeah. Work with DPS to develop an updated forest management plan. What you're proposing is basically a hands-off forest management plan. Yeah, it's just not a huge high priority unless you want to place it there. The reason
it is a high priority for me, Deborah.
Okay, Dan, I hear you.
Yeah.
The reason I'm bringing this up now, we have one more meeting next month of the committee as it's currently composed. And I think we ought to be discussing this then, because I assume that there will be a lot of carryover in terms of the membership. I may or may not be the chair. So just bear it all in mind. I certainly want to continue as a member, but I think that, it's time for somebody else to take over the helm. So we'll talk about it again next month. All right then, just drawing your attention to the budget adjustments that were in your packet. I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about, unless anybody else has something they want to bring up. Okay then, can I get a motion to adjourn? And
Sure.
moved by Amanda, seconded by Dave. Y'all have a wonderful holiday and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Deborah.
We're all in favor of adjournment.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year,
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah, whatever your choice is, and have a great time.
Thanks, you too.